Hey everyone, Chris McGinnis here, and it's now time for part 2 of Let's Read the Battle for the Worlds Between Worlds Beyond. We're going to start with Chapter 11, Allies. Me and Draco were wandering the streets, not sure where to head next. Draco, I said looking at him and holding his hand, "You're going to hell." Before I could say anything else, we heard gunshots nearby. We ran in the direction of the gunshots. It was a fight. As we got there, it seemed like the fight was over, and Uncle Jesse and Joey were running into an alley. Standing in the street were Donna Jo, Stephanie, and Michelle Tanner. Donna Jo was holding twin pistols. Stephanie had a hunting rifle, and Michelle had a machine gun bra. The cast for Full House is in this now? Come on. They all looked at us. "It appears as if we're on the same side," said Michelle. I nodded, except for Draco. He's evil, but he's not dangerous. "Though we must be vigilant in case he turns on us," said Stephanie, giving Draco weird looks. We stood there, and it was kind of weird, but then Donna Jo told us that she believed that Joey and Uncle Jesse were supplying the villains with ammunition and using Jesse and the shitters to raise money for their evil deeds. "For those reasons, we have to kill them," said Donna Jo. "Let's do it then," I said. "Let's kill Joey and Uncle Jesse." Then I thought of something. "But how can we find them? They just ran away. I don't think we can catch up." "That problem can easily be alleviated," said Michelle, raising her arm. "Taxi!" she yelled. Then a car pulled up in front of us. "You ladies need a ride?" said the driver. I saw who it was driving it and I screamed. It was Stuntman Mike! Again, no idea who this is. Chapter 12. Death Retardant. Stuntman Mike asked us to get in his car, but I'd seen the movie, so I yelled, "No, don't! He'll try to kill you!" He jumped out of the car and grabbed my hair. "Eat floor, bitch!" he yelled and shoved me to the ground. He pulled out a giant remote control and used it to make his car back up, suddenly, driving over Michelle Tanner. She screamed as her body was pulled underneath the tire, crushing her. "You shitcock!" yelled Donna Jo, beginning to fire at Stuntman Mike. He drove behind his car, which was bulletproof. "Get out from under there, you limp dick piece of asshole putty!" screamed Stephanie, shooting the car in anger. "Rudolpha, god damn it!" yelled Donna Jo, kicking the tire. As she kicked the tire, suddenly the car blew up. Me and Draco were knocked on our backs. When I got up, I saw Stephanie and Donna Jo jumping into Stuntman Mike as their faces were melting off, leaving bright white skulls that had their mouths wide open as they screamed. Stuntman Mike waved his arms again as they pulled out little sister needles and shoved them into him, draining him of his essence. Soon he began to crumble and turn into dust. Donna Jo and Stephanie began laughing with their skull face, grabbing Michelle's body and dragging it into a corner. "We have to kill Uncle Jesse and Joey," I yelled. Chapter 13. The Hunt for the RHR. No, Hunt for the Rush Hour Renegades. Me and Draco began running through the alleys, trying to track down Uncle Jesse and Joey. But we had no idea what to do until I noticed a trail of grease and oil on the ground. "It's his hair!" I yelled. "Uncle Jesse is a mulleted greasehead, so we can follow the trail to find them." Draco looked up. "You are so smart." I only lolled, and we began to follow the oil. It smelled like feta cheese. We ran down an alley, then the trail stopped. It was hard to see, so I was kind of scared. Suddenly I heard a voice. "Hey there, boys and girls!" It was Bullwinkle's voice, which could mean one thing. "Die, Joey!" I yelled, firing off a gun into the dark. There was a cry in the dark, and I knew that I'd hit him. Suddenly bright lights came on. I couldn't see. I saw Joey laying on the ground. He was bleeding from his upper leg and looking at me with an "OMG, I'm gonna kill you" face. Uncle Jesse came out around the corner, the light shining off his slick hair. "Have mercy," I yelled as he raised a gun and pointed at Draco. Suddenly flowers began covering Uncle Jesse, and he couldn't move. A figure stepped out behind him, wearing an ugly-ass witch costume. It was Marnie Cromwell. Joey pulled out the gun and aimed at her. She smacked his hand away. I stood up and raised my gun, putting it right between Joey's eyes. I pulled the trigger and painted the alley with his brains, causing Marnie to moan like a dog in heat. I walked over to Uncle Jesse, still wrapped in the plants. "I'm here to light the Olympic torch," I said, lighting a match and dropping it on Uncle Jesse, causing all the plants to set fire. Me, Draco, and Marnie stood there and watched him burn. "Well, now that that's over," said Marnie, extending her hand to Draco. As Draco shook her hand, she pulled into her, putting a gun to his head and pulling the trigger. "No!" I yelled as Draco dropped to the floor. "Marnie, I love you," he said as he died. I turned to see Marnie pointing the gun at me. Chapter 14. Hero Squad. Marnie, don't do this, I asked. Marnie's got me shaking hand. She seemed kind of nervous. Before I could grab the gun from her, "Oh, hell no, bitch," I heard someone say before I heard a shot and a bullet ripped off Marnie's hand. I looked, and it was the Hero Squad. Walking toward me were Betty Davis, Tilda Swinton, and Beyonce. What a random assortment of people. Marnie fell to the ground, screaming and crying as the three women walked up to us. "We heard you were in danger," said Tilda Swinton. Beyonce put her gun to Marnie's head. "Bitch, you're supposed to be on our side," she said. Marnie had snot pouring down her face and was drooling on the floor because she was crying so hard. "I asked you a question. Answer it." Marnie screamed, "They have my family. I had to kill her or it would kill them." With silence as Beyonce put her gun away before pulling out her switchblade. "Tough luck, bitch," she said as she slit Marnie's throat. Blood poured everywhere, and we all watched as Marnie bled out, her body turning into sparkles and flying away. "That was not the real Marnie," exclaimed Betty Davis, tossing her cigarette away and pulling out a new one. "Definitely not," said Tilda Swinton androgynously. "What?" "Why are all of you here?" I asked. "We heard you in danger, and you seem to be the key to putting this shit right," said Beyonce. "What do you mean?" Betty Davis laughed. "For some reason, the enemy wants to kill you, so you must be important." Tilda Swinton adjusted her hair. "There's an enemy stronghold far into the woods. We've been tasked to stop it and find clues as to where the leader of the evil force is being held up." "You in?" Beyonce asked, and I nodded. We all jumped in the air and cheered. I was part of the Hero Squad. Chapter 15. Training with the Hero Squad. We were hiking through the woods. Betty Davis would sometimes go into cussing fits as her gown would get caught in thorns and stuff. Beyonce stomped through the woods in her Gucci pumps while Tilda Swinton flew in the air above us, looking ahead for signs of enemies. Rodolpha kept tripping over twigs in her cheap Payless shoes. "Oh God, I'm gonna fall," she would yell before tripping and falling on the ground and laying around wheezing. "Rodolpha, don't be such a lazy twat," I said, rolling my eyes. Okay. "Your friend is quite the little tag-along," Betty Davis said, pulling her dress from a branch. "She looks kind of like my lawyer," said Beyonce, eating a honey bun. "Enemies are approaching," yelled Tilda from above us. We got into battle positions. Rodolpha just hid behind a tree. "There ain't no money behind that tree, bitch," yelled Beyonce, tossing it after her. "Make your ass useful." Through the woods came a group of enemies. It was Zoisite, Bellatrix, the White Witch, and Crystal Connor. Crystal licked her lips and looked at me. "Remember me, darling?" she said. "No!" I screamed, hoping not to get AIDS again. Before Crystal could do anything, Tilda Swinton swooped down, grabbing Crystal by the neck and hurling her several yards away. Betty Davis pounced on Bellatrix, the two women rolling around and tugging on each other's hair. Beyonce took on the White Witch. "Oh, so you the White Witch? Let me show you the Black Bitch," she yelled, firing her guns at the evil woman. I ran to Zoisite, creating a fireball in my hand. She shot lightning out of its hands, almost hitting me. I ran around a tree to get close before shooting a fireball and hitting it in the chest. It turned and ran, as did Bellatrix, who had a lot of her hair missing. Beyonce stood over the White Witch, her body filled with bullets. "Well, that was exciting," said Tilda Swinton as she fell to the ground. Beyonce spun her gun around in her finger before it accidentally fired. "Oh shit!" she yelled as the bullet ripped off Rodolpha's leg. Before we could run to her, a pack of wolves came and grabbed her, dragging her into the woods as he screamed like Fran Drescher. Here we go. Our eyes locked, and I saw the life leaving her eyes. It was really sad. If you're crying, I'm sorry. I held her hand and kissed it. It tasted like grease and kosher salt. She gave me a look that let me know that she wanted me to win so that our world would be safe, and then she went all limp and stuff and died. I cried for like 5 minutes. We all dusted ourselves off and continued on. Well, may as well do it for this running gag now. Every time Rodolpha comes back and dies in the chapter, take a drink. Chapter 16. The Curious Village. We walked through the wood and we saw a clearing. "Better be careful. I don't want no assholes to take us out from a distance," said Beyonce, signaling for us to wait while she crept closer to the clearing. Betty Davis, Tilda, and I sat there waiting. After a while, we began to get worried. We snuck up to the clearing. We gasped. It was a whole village. There were women walking all around, but they were dressed like poor people. They wore really high boots and short jeans and tank tops that were barely covering their hooters. Some of them kind of looked like men. You could see bits of duct tape poking up from their jeans. We stuck to the woods, watching them as they would line up and a man would come out of a tent, point to one of them, and the two would go off into a tent together. "What are they doing?" I asked. I didn't get an answer because suddenly there was a loud voice. Someone must have had the megaphone. "Heroes, we have Beyonce, so go ahead and show yourself or we will pour water on her weave." We all gasped and quickly ran into the clearing, waving our hands. A group of women came out, being led by Crystal Connors. I screamed when I saw who was with her. It was Nomi. She looked different. She seemed evil. Like she just pushed someone down the stairs. Crystal and Nomi had a gay kiss. Orange Cheeto spit connected their mouths. It was gross. Yeah, that's a horrible image. "What are you doing, Nomi?" I yelled. Crystal smirked. "She's a whore, darling. We're all whores." I screamed, "No!" I charged at Crystal, wanting to kill her or tear her nipple off, but some of the women who looked like men grabbed me. I began to cry as Crystal began to put bright red lipstick on me as other women grabbed Betty Davis and Tilda. "You're all gonna be whores," Nomi said, laughing. Chapter 17. Whore Village. I looked at Crystal. "I hate you," I said. She only laughed and said, "I know." They led us to the center of the village where Beyonce was tied to a giant bed, duct tape over her mouth so she couldn't talk. "Once we get our mind control implants, I knew you would be part of our little group." She held up one of the implants. It looked weird. "Everyone here is brainwashed," I said, horrified. Crystal shook her head. "No, we're just whores. I had these special boob implants made just for your little group." "What do we do, Tilda?" I asked, but Tilda Swinton didn't respond. Then I heard a noise in the wood. I looked out and I almost let out a happy scream. It was Phoenix Wright, Marge, Gunderson, and Liz Lemon. We were saved! They ran toward us. Marge was sort of slow because she was pregnant. She was firing her gun and hit the hookers holding us. Crystal let out a scream of anger. Now that I was free, I punched Nomi. She fell backwards. Liz Lemon jumped on her and slashed her face. Then she did the same to Crystal. "Now you all have chins, bitch," she yelled, doing a loser dance. Phoenix Wright untied Beyonce and she ripped the tape off her mouth. "All these bitches are dead," she said, pulling out her guns. But we're surrounded by a group of man-ladies. They looked really strong and confused. Liz Lemon threw a block of cheese at one of them, which took them by surprise, allowing Beyonce to fire several bullets into them. It let out a cry that sounded male and female and fell onto the ground. Phoenix Wright swung a clock that looked like a famous statue at one of the prostitutes, but it grabbed the statue from him. So Betty Davis jumped on him and began to claw his eyes out. "Now you are blind," she shouted. I tossed a fireball at one and it ran as it burned, turning to ash and disappeared. Soon all of them were dead. We won! When we went to take care of Crystal and Nomi, they had vanished. "I doubt that's the last we'll see of them," said Phoenix, and we all nodded. How many random characters are going to appear in this thing? Why do I somehow get the feeling I don't want to know the answer to that? Chapter 18. The Siege. Phoenix Wright, Marge, Gunderson, and Liz Lemon left. Apparently they all had to go kill someone. So we kept walking through the woods. Rodolfo was struggling to keep up in her wooden clogs. Beyonce and Rodolfo didn't get along because Rodolfo doesn't like BLACK people. "Oh my god, she's gonna rob me," she would say every time Beyonce came close to her. Soon we heard gunshots and screaming. There was a large house in the middle of the forest. It was surrounded by child soldiers. They were carrying guns and looked sad and malnourished. "What is this bullshit?" asked Beyonce. "The kids keep shooting at the house, and every so often a gun would fire from inside the house, taking out one of the kids. There must be heroes in trouble in there," I yelled. "We better check it out," said Betty Davis. Tilda Swinton waved her hands, and a giant force field came out of the house, knocking the little kids down long enough for us to run inside. Inside was Dorothy Zabornak, Rose Nyland, Sophia Petrillo, and Rue McClanahan. If you're going to use the names of the Golden Girls, why don't you use all character names or all actress names? For the record, Rue McClanahan's character was named Blanche. I don't remember the last name. Whatever, moving on. Sophia was laying on the couch, a gunshot in her leg. "Good, we needed this help," said Dorothy, pumping her shotgun. "My force field can only last so long," said Tilda Swinton. "We must prepare an adequate defense." "Yeah, those kids look like some little shits," said Beyonce, patting her weave. Rose said nothing, just chewing on a big piece of raw meat. "My power wanes," said Tilda as the force field disappeared and gunshots began hitting the house again. Dorothy quickly leaned out the window to shoot a little girl who was carrying an assault rifle. Rodolfo hid behind the couch. "We need to distract them," I yelled. "Here," Beyonce said, pushing Rodolfo toward the door. "Give them this bitch." "Oh my god, you would never do that, Harlow," Rodolfo said, counting her money. "But I will, you pussy booger." What? Beyonce shouted, kicking Rodolphe out the window. The kids swarmed around her as she let out a high-pitched scream. Our eyes locked, and I saw the life leaving her. It was really sad. If you're crying, I'm sorry. I held her hand and kissed it. It smelled like grease and kosher salt. She gave me then, and she went all limp and stuff, and I died. I cried for like 5 minutes. Drink. Beyonce reached into her Kmart panties and pulled out a grenade. She pulled the pin and threw it into the mask, causing child parts to splatter the house as the grenade blew up. God damn, said Dorothy. Chapter 19. Scattered. Loading. The house we were in burned down and we escaped, but everyone else died. Me and the hero squad were walking toward the woods toward the enemy base when suddenly the roll-offs jumped at us. They were all monstrous. Run, bitches! Beyonce yelled, sprinting into the foods as Amy Roloff went after her. I turned and ran, screaming like a moose. I heard the sound of a motor scooter, but did not see which midge was chasing me. Before I could run any further, a hand grabbed me and pulled me into a tree. Sitting in the branches with me was Katniss Everdeen and Pete Mellark. Peter looked at me all shyly and romantically, and I could see that Katniss did not like it. What are you guys going to do? I said quizzically. Katniss aimed her buoyant arrow and fired, hitting the normal-sized twin, skewering him through the head. Katniss moaned like a marine in heat. Peter reached over and held my hand, and I sucked on his ring finger. Hey, let's go, Katniss yelled, and we all jumped out of the tree. We looked around, and we didn't see any of the roll-off or the hero squad. I was lost and didn't know what to do. Let's keep walking in the woods and see if we can find my group, I said. Peter and Katniss agreed and said my idea was the best idea ever. We kept walking when there was a noise from the bushes and someone jumped out. It was Amber from Teen Mom. What the hell? Alright, last chapter for this video. Chapter 20. Betrayal. Go eat some Cracker Barrel, you fat bitch, I yelled, shooing Amber away. But she started swinging her baby around. She was attached to a chain. It was like Go-Go from Kill Bill. I dove to the ground, avoiding Leia as she flew over my head. Katniss fired an arrow at Amber and hit her in the tit. She roared like an octopus. Peeta, I yelled, be careful. He picked up a large rock and hurled it at the monster. She headbutted it midair and it shattered. I tossed a fireball at her, but she swallowed it. What do we do? I asked. Just then, a fist punched through Amber's stomach. Cheese Whiz and Tuna poured out all over the ground as the fist pulled back, leaving a big hole. Amber fell to the ground and Leia exploded. When she fell, I saw who had saved us. It was Superman! OMG, I said. I can't believe it. Yeah, I know, said Katniss, blowing her nose on the leaf. We kept walking through the woods. I would yell for Tilda, Betty, or Beyonce sometime, but no one would respond. Katniss would give me dirty looks because Peeta kept holding my hands. We walked into a clearing and there was people sitting on a rock. When I saw them, I screamed. I felt so angry. It was Draco and Rudolpha. They were kissing. Okay, show of hands. Who thinks within the next chapter or two, Rodolpha gets killed somehow? Yep, that's what I thought. Alright, tune in the next video to see if my prediction comes true.